Chapter 1175. Yi Qinghan immediately recognized Yun Zhonghai. Stepping forward, he bowed and said, "Yi Qinghan offers greetings, Elder Yun. Elder Sister Yao asked me to send her regards." "Come with me," Yun Zhonghai said in a cultured and refined manner. His magnetic voice was very pleasant to listen to. With that, Yun Zhonghai turned and entered the city north. Yi Qinghan followed closely behind. They arrived at a mountain peak, surrounded by mountains, rivers, spirit beasts, birds, and flowers. It was a magnificent sight to behold. At the foot of the mountain was a palace, enormous and filled with pavilions. Above the lake was a wooden raft, upon which sat a small bamboo hut. It was very exquisite. Looking at the decorations, Yi Qinghan stared at Yun Zhonghai's back. "This guy isn't simple," he murmured. "He's been keeping a low profile all this time, and hasn't revealed his true strength. However, his territory is magnificent, and his aura is majestic. 9 dragons surround him, and 100 birds pay homage to a phoenix. It's obvious that he's wildly ambitious." Yun Zhonghai stepped onto the bamboo raft. "Come with me," he said coolly. Smiling, Yi Qinghan followed him onto the raft. Yun Zhonghai waved his hand, causing the raft to drift toward the center of the lake. In that moment, he sensed that Yun Zhonghai didn't just have ice-type spirit quality fluctuations, but also water-type and wind-type spirit quality fluctuations. And they were extremely pure. The lake's surface was undulating, and the waves in the depths were surging violently. The momentum was terrifying, but the wooden raft was able to go against the current without the slightest tremor. They entered the bamboo house on the raft. The interior of the house was very simple. There was only a sword hanging on the wall, 2 chairs, a round table, a bed made of ice elemental spiritual stone, and a soft silk quilt. There was nothing else. As Yi Qinghan looked at Yun Zhonghai, he got the feeling that he was a natural fit for the lake. Every move he made was filled with an indescribable boldness and energy. Although he seemed to be a bit stronger than an ordinary magistrate, he was actually strong enough to crush an ordinary half-step paramount god. "Give me the keepsake," Yun Zhonghai said calmly. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and handed over a sealed pouch. There was something inside, but it was not opened. Yun Zhonghai took the pouch and gently squeezed it. The pouch split into 2 and a piece of paper appeared inside. "Your heart, your concubine's will, can only be bestowed by the heavens." Yun Zhonghai clenched his fists, and the paper in his hand turned into powder. He asked hoarsely, "Why did little Yao ask you to find me?" "Ninth Elder, this junior has killed the Black Sky County's county chief. She hopes that you can introduce me to 3rd young master." Yi Qinghan bowed and said. Yun Zhonghai turned around and looked at Yi Qinghan. A strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he whispered, "You actually have the ability to kill the head of a county. No wonder little Yao cherished talent and recommended you to me." Yi Qinghan was silent for a while, quietly waiting for Yun Zhonghai's answer. I understand. Tomorrow, I'll arrange for you to meet at the Fragrance Pavilion in the east of the city. When you return, give this pouch to little Yao." "Many thanks." Yun Zhonghai waved his hand and handed the pouch to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took the pouch, then cupped his hands and bowed. "Many thanks, Lord Elder. This junior will definitely deliver this to Big Sister Yao." "Your goal isn't just to see that brat Yun Qi, is it? If you just want the city lord to stop investigating the death of the prefectural governor, then all you have to do is tell me. I'll tell Yun Qi." Yun Zhonghai's eyes were like torches, as if he could see through Yi Qinghan's heart. Yi Qinghan respectfully said, "Elder's eyes are as sharp as pearls. As expected, I can't hide anything from you. This junior wants to see the city lord and represent Cloud amongst clouds in the Snow Empire's God Realm Elite competition." Yun Zhonghai's eyes flashed. He frowned and said, "Do you know what the elite competition is? It's a competition to select the realm army. The strongest will be chosen by the realm lord to become an outer disciple. Every participant will be a top existence in a city, and each city will have 10 spots. They will fight each other, and if you're not careful, you'll die. Do you have the confidence to participate in the elite competition?" "This junior is willing to do his best," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Yun Zhonghai was silent for a long time as he stared at Yi Qinghan. He then said in a hoarse voice, "If you want to participate, you don't have to go through the city lord. Wait until the day you follow me and appear as my disciple. Then you'll have the chance to act." Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. He cupped his hands and said, "I beg for your guidance. I have a brother whose cultivation is not inferior to mine. I don't dare to say that he can become an outer disciple of the Realm Lord, but at least becoming a Realm Army soldier won't be a problem. Alright, the next elite competition will be next spring. In 5 months' time, you will fight as my disciple. You will win glory, and I will win the recognition and resources of the Realm Lord. It's a win-win situation. I hope you won't disappoint me," Yun Zhonghai said in a low voice. When Yi Qinghan saw the ambition in Yun Zhonghai's eyes, he thought to himself, there's definitely something going on between him and Big Sis Yao. There's definitely a grudge between him and the city lord. Otherwise, he wouldn't steal his brother's credit so brazenly. Then this junior will take his leave. Yi Qinghan bowed and said, Yun Zhonghai didn't drive the wooden raft back. Instead, he stopped where he was, as if he wanted to see Yi Qinghan's cultivation. Everyone knew that one couldn't fly in the city. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and walked out of the room. He walked on the water, and wherever he went, the water beneath his feet was as smooth as a mirror. 10 meters away, it looked like a water dragon that was about to soar into the sky. Yun Zhonghai narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Qinghan's disappearing figure. He fell into deep thought. The water spirit is so pure. It's as if he was born with a water spirit body. No wonder he was so confident. Yun Zhonghai whispered to himself, "Lord Yun Zhonghai, I'll take revenge next year for stealing my wife." Yun Zhonghai said hoarsely. The lake water began to surge and rush toward Yi Qinghan. However, when it got close to Yi Qinghan, the water automatically calmed down. It was like an obedient spirit that followed Yi Qinghan's will. Yi Qinghan's black hair fluttered in the wind. He suppressed the surging lake water and deliberately revealed part of his strength. He walked on the water but didn't touch a drop of water. Only when he reached the shore did he quickly leave. Returning the way he came, he actually ran into the famous Yun family's third young master. He really did have the qualifications to be a silk pants. His handsome face and embroidered divine robes indicated that he was definitely one of the top experts of the younger generation. His black hair draped over his shoulders, and he had 4 beautiful women by his side. His eyes looked disdainfully at Yi Qinghan, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. "Who are you? Why are you in the northern part of the city?" Yun Qi asked coldly. This commoner Yi Qinghan greets the third young master. "I am the chief of Black Sky County's Frost Demon Stronghold. A few days ago, I accidentally killed the county chief. I'm here to ask for punishment." Yi Qinghan bowed. "What? You killed that slut Black Sky County's county chief?" Yun Qi was stunned for a moment, and then he said happily, Good. This lowly person ruined my plans and dared to steal my woman. He really doesn't know what's good for him. If he's killed, then he's killed. Leave this matter to me. I'll tell my father and spare your life." "Thank you, third young master." Yi Qinghan pretended to be grateful and said repeatedly. Chapter 1176. Yi Qinghan was moved to tears. The biggest characteristic of a silk pants was that they were easily inflated. Once someone praised them, they would lose their sense of direction. Yi Kun was like this in the past. The more you praised him, the more arrogant he became. However, this kind of person was easy to deal with. As long as you catered to him, you could call him brother at any time. "Third young master, I've long heard of your name. You're a famous genius of the Snow Empire's god realm. Seeing you today, it's true that your reputation is not as good as meeting you in person." Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, Well said. I don't have any good points, but I'm loyal. That bastard He Jundao has long since annoyed me. If I wasn't worried about the other governors saying that I'm a bully, I would have already killed him. Since you helped me, you're my brother. You're called you what?" Yun Qi grinned, his expression extremely wretched. His large hands hugged the 2 women, not caring that Yi Qinghan was in front of him. He reached out and groped them. "Yi Qinghan." Yi Qinghan smiled and replied, "Brother Yi, today I'm holding a celebration at the Fragrance Pavilion. Come with me later. I'll introduce you to the top geniuses of the various great clans in Cloud City. I guarantee that this trip won't be in vain." Yun Qi didn't care whether Yi Qinghan agreed or not. He directly said to the women beside him in a domineering manner, "You guys go back. I'm going to the Fragrance Pavilion." The women didn't dare to go against Yun Qi's will and could only leave. Yi Qinghan looked at Yun Qi as if he was looking at Yi Kuan. However, he was even more scheming than Yi Kuan. This person was definitely not a pure silk pants. Otherwise, his cultivation wouldn't be so powerful. Yi Kuan was a pure silk pants. The current Yi Kuan is comparable to him. Neither of them are easy to deal with. However, this third young master seems very easygoing. Once he gets angry, he won't stop until he kills someone. Yi Qinghan looked at Yun Qi with a smile. However, he had seen through this person and was on guard. "Let's go. Come with this young master to broaden your horizons." After Yun Qi finished speaking, he unceremoniously put his arm around Yi Qinghan's shoulder and walked out of the northern part of the city. Along the way, they called each other brothers, causing the bystanders to be envious. Everyone knew that Yun Qi wasn't someone that just anyone could climb up to. Yi Qinghan didn't push him away. In terms of debauchery, acting, if he said he was number 2, no one would dare to say they were number 1. As a result, he quickly got along well with Yun Qi. Every word he said hit Yun Qi's weak spot, and their relationship on the surface became better and better. The two of them chatted about everything under the sky, but not a single word of truth was spoken. They walked all the way out of the Yun family's inner city and arrived at the roadside. When the guards saw the two of them hugging each other, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded. "How? Of. Yi Qinghan naturally wouldn't steal his glory. He hastily said, "How can I be compared to third brother? I worked together with a friend to get rid of him. That guy preyed on living creatures. Black Sky County's commoners are poor and destitute. Once I return, I'll definitely spread the word that third young master sympathizes with the commoners. That's why he gave the order to kill that traitor." Yun Qi smiled but didn't say anything. He really did admire Yi Qinghan. He was very smart, so he silently accepted the credit. The city lord had been in power for 1,000,000 years. He would naturally let others do it and then cultivate in peace. If the third young master wanted to become the city lord, he would naturally need the support of all the county governors and the majority of the commoners in the city. Yun Qi wasn't the only one who was favored. There were at least 3 to 5 others who could compete with him for favor. Moreover, they were all slightly stronger than him. They all coveted the city lord's position because only by becoming the city lord would they have a chance to see the realm master. Only then would they have a chance to be recognized by the realm master and be nurtured by him. That as the two of them walked, Yun Qi contacted a few more descendants of prominent families. This could be considered a strong alliance, forming a small group. Yun Qi wasn't the first to do this. There were quite a few who did this. Among them, the eldest son of the Yun family was the most powerful. The young master of Mount Monarch and the eldest son of the Yun family, Yun Zhang, were life and death brothers. They were the best candidates for the city lord's position. The second son, Yun Dong, was the brother of the young master of Sky Dragon Stronghold, Long Jinghu. Moreover, he was preparing to marry Long Jinghu's sister. Sky Dragon Stronghold was bound to push Yun Dong to become the city lord. The battle for the city lord's position was imminent. In 3 years, Yun Zhongjuan would abdicate. After he abdicated, in order to balance the power of the commoners, he would definitely choose the son with the most supporters to become the city lord, not the one he favored the most. Yi Qinghan was naturally aware of this. After all, Sister Yao had her own goals. It was impossible for her to not have any information. Moreover, that Yun Zhonghai wasn't someone easy to deal with. However, Yi Qinghan wasn't interested in supporting a city lord. He only wanted to go to the Great Wasteland domain. The city lord's position would only be determined in 3 years. He wasn't willing to wait. Unless absolutely necessary, he absolutely wouldn't participate in the battle for the city lord's position. The two of them walked all the way to the fragrance pavilion in the east of the city. It was 100 times larger than the one outside of Black Sky County. The stunning beauties inside were like carps crossing the river, charming to the bone. However, just as they reached the entrance, Yun-Chi ran into people he didn't want to meet. The eldest son of the Yun family, Yun Zhang, and the young master of Mount Monarch, Di Feizuan. Di Feizuan and Yun Zhang stared at Yi Qinghan at the same time. Their eyes were filled with disdain, hostility, and killing intent. It was clear that they didn't understand Yi Qinghan, but they didn't want Yun-Chi to have another helper. Third brother, which noble family is this fellow Taoist from? Why don't you introduce him to your big brother? Yun Zhang restrained his hostility and asked calmly. Big brother is actually interested in my matters? Can't you see how close I am to him? He is clearly one of my people. Yun-Chi smiled wickedly. His voice was extremely charming. His large hand patted Yi Qinghan's but like a man declaring his sovereignty over a woman. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. His entire body shook. A wave of energy appeared behind him and blocked Yun-Chi's large hand. However, this fellow didn't give up. Following the wave of energy, he actually grabbed Yi Qinghan's waist. Yi Qinghan's entire body stiffened. His body moved to the side, wanting to avoid Yun-Chi's hand. However, this fellow was too shameless. He didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he used all his strength to rub it. Oh, third brother, when did you start liking men? However, he is indeed very handsome. However, he is not suitable to be your woman. He is more suitable to be your man. Yun Zhang disdainfully mocked, mocking Yun-Chi for being a woman. Di Feizuan frowned and coldly said, "Let's go in." After speaking, the two of them entered the fragrance pavilion without looking back. Yi Qinghan felt a wave of disgust. He hurriedly broke free from Yun-Chi's large hand. A sinister chill appeared in his eyes as his tyrannical aura spread out in all directions. Yun-Chi jumped in fright and retreated a few steps. Looking into Yi Qinghan's eyes, he hurriedly smiled and said, "I just wanted to discuss the two of them. Old brother, don't be nervous. You disgust me. I am a very traditional man. I am very single-minded and only like beautiful women. I don't like men touching me." Yi Qinghan coldly said, "Fine. Don't worry, I am even more single-minded than you. I only like young beauties." Yun-Chi shamelessly replied. Yi Qinghan, let me tell you. Actually, Yun Zhang and Di Feizuan are the real perverts. I heard that the two of them once slept on the same bed and did some very intense exercise. That is why I wanted to discuss them." Yun-Chi once again laughed sinisterly. Yi Qinghan felt goosebumps all over his body. He frowned and said, "Don't disgust me. I am very normal." Only then did Yun-Chi tactfully shut his mouth. He no longer talked about this matter and led Yi Qinghan into the fragrance pavilion. The pavilion was filled with beautiful women. There were even some beautiful women from aristocratic families who dressed up as men to seek pleasure. Although they hid it very well, Yi Qinghan felt an indescribable pain in his heart when he saw this scene. He suddenly thought of Bai Shaoxing. Recommended through all channels. Today's outbreak. I hope that everyone can subscribe to Genesis Chinese Network or QQ. Daodu will be eternally grateful. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. I tried to update, but there were only a few who supported subscriptions. Chapter 1177. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly as he looked at the cross-dressing female cultivator who thought that no one would be able to see through her disguise. The decoration of the fragrance pavilion was almost the same as Sister Yao's fragrance pavilion. However, there were 6 floors in total. The floors below the 4th floor had no rooms, only a hall. The tables were filled with rich guests, adventurers, and young masters. Above the 5th floor, one couldn't go up just because they had money. Instead, one needed a noble status and powerful strength. On the 4th floor, Yun Zhang and Yun Dong were both present. They each had a table, one in the east and one in the west, facing each other from a distance. The enmity between them was quite deep. The struggle for power between brothers was even crueler than the feud between 2 sections. So they're both here. Interesting. Yun-Chi laughed coldly and walked towards the hall. Third young master, we're honored by your presence. May I know which floor you chose? A beautiful young woman walked over, swaying her hips. How could a man not be moved? It was no wonder that this place was always packed with people and carriages. Fourth floor, the table near the corridor in the north. Yun Qi's lips curled up. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and looked around. His gaze landed on the fourth floor. There was a person at Yun Dong's table that attracted his attention. It was a very heroic-looking cross-dressing female. Her clothes were almost the same as by Xiaoxing's. Her appearance, dress, and temperament were 80% similar. What a coincidence! Yi Qinghan muttered inwardly. However, he knew that she wasn't by Xiaoxing. The world was so big that nothing was too strange. It was just a coincidence. Tap tap tap. Yi Qinghan and Yun Qi walked up to the fourth floor. They were only 20 meters away from Yun Zhang and Yun Dong's table. Their table was filled with young men and women from the top forces of Cloud among City. Their cultivations were all peak kings. They were all facing each other with deep enmity. A faint killing intent spread out. No one on the fourth floor was willing to get close to the fight between the three brothers. Yi Qinghan slowly sat down. His gaze never left the cross-dressing female. What? You're interested in her? She's Long Jinghu's younger sister and Yun Dong's fiancée, Long Shirshir. Yun Qi noticed Yi Qinghan's gaze and reminded him in a low voice. Yun Dong loves her very much, but Long Shirshir doesn't seem to be interested in her. They seem to be together on the surface, but at heart, they're divided. If you want to snatch her away, I'm afraid you'll have to fight Yun Dong to the death. There was no emotion or desire in Yi Qinghan's deep eyes. He just watched calmly and silently shook his head. Yun Dong also stared at Yi Qinghan. A trace of anger and killing intent flashed in his eyes. He snorted coldly, alarming the 7 or 8 people at his table. They all looked up and stared at Yi Qinghan. Long Shirshir's black hair draped over her shoulders. She picked up a cup of tea and took a sip. The cup covered half of her peerless face. Her bright eyes looked at Yi Qinghan and she was deeply attracted by his eyes. Those eyes seemed to have an incomparable magic that made people unable to look away. 4 pairs of eyes looked at each other, flickering with a strange fluctuation. Yi Qinghan's vigorous face revealed a faint smile. He nodded at Long Shirshir. That smile caused the entire fourth floor to fall into a deathly silence. Long Shirshir also returned a smile, but it was covered by her hands. However, the gentleness in her eyes could not be concealed. Bang! Yun Dong slapped the table and coldly looked at Long Shirshir. He then turned to Yi Qinghan, the killing intent in his eyes growing stronger. The eldest Yun Zhang laughed. He was unscrupulous and directly and brazenly sowed discord. He instigated, "Second brother, your woman is about to be taken away by someone else. Could it be that you only know how to slam the table?" The 9 people at Yun Zhang's table roared with laughter. They deliberately instigated the relationship between Yun Dong and Yi Qinghan. They couldn't wait to fight on the spot. The killing intent on the fourth floor had already begun to spread. Yun Qi also didn't think that Yi Qinghan would stare at Yun Dong's woman so unscrupulously. Now that he had given up on Yi Qinghan, wouldn't that make others laugh their heads off? It's just a glance. Eldest brother, aren't you deliberately instigating and trying to take advantage of the situation? Yun Qi indifferently said. Yun Dong couldn't stand it. The woman he loved the most didn't love him and even looked at someone else without restraint. Even if it was instigation, he still had to show his imposing manner. However, Long Jinghu, who was sitting between Yun Dong and Long Shirshir, pressed down on Yun Dong's wrist. He lightly shook his head and whispered, "Don't be blinded by Yun Zhang's instigation. The cultivation of the man beside Yun Qi is very high. Moreover, there is no desire in his eyes when he looks at Long Shirshir. You don't need to offend him and let Yun Zhang take advantage." Long Jinghu looked very domineering, but in reality he was very meticulous and calm. His eyes were very unique. Just from Yi Qinghan's temperament and sitting posture, he could infer that his strength was very terrifying. It was clear that he wasn't easy to deal with. Yi Qinghan slowly withdrew his gaze and looked out the window. Half of his face was emotionless. It was impossible to know what he was thinking. So it turns out that you have evil intentions but no guts. Others only snorted and you don't dare to look anymore. TSK. Yun Zhang disdainfully mocked. Yi Qinghan coldly glanced at Yun Zhang. Looking at his shifty-eyed appearance, he knew that this person liked to use underhanded methods and instigate relationships so that he could reap the benefits of others. He was definitely a treacherous person. Di Feizuan coldly stared at Yi Qinghan as if he wanted to see through his soul. However, very quickly, two enchanting women came from the fourth floor and went straight to Yi Qinghan's table. Third young master, the same old rules? One of the women charmingly asked. The same old wine and dishes. Yun Qi indifferently said, Brother Yi, do you need a woman? Yi Qinghan shook his head and calmly said, I don't need one. You can do as you please. Very well, 7 stars. The same old rules. I'm a rather nostalgic person. Yun Qi said to the two women. Very quickly, one of the women walked down while the others sat on Yun Qi's lap. They were very casual and not shy at all. It was very clear that they were old lovers. Soon after, 7 more people appeared on the 4th floor. All of them were handsome and elegant. One of them was a woman dressed as a man. She was tall and slender, but her twin peaks could be easily distinguished at a glance. Come, let me introduce you. This is Black Sky County's Yi Qinghan. Brother Yi, he helped me get rid of that bastard He Jundao. I'm in a very good mood, so I'll give you guys a star. Today, we'll drink until we're drunk. Yun Qi loudly said. Yi Qinghan stood up and nodded to everyone. I'm Dongfang Haojuan and this is my sister Dongfang Su. Greetings, brother Yi. A handsome young man nodded and said. I'm Su Zheng. Greetings, brother Yi. I'm Liang Feng. Very quickly, everyone introduced themselves. Everyone was arrogant, but in this situation, no one had the right to be arrogant. Either they had a prominent status or they had outstanding strength. It was not worth offending anyone. Don't be so polite. We're all brothers. Yun Qi gestured for everyone to sit down. Yi Qinghan looked at everyone and saw that Yun Qi's table was similar to the other 2 tables. However, there was a slight difference and there were fewer people. The family background of these young geniuses was much weaker than Monarch Mountain and Heavenly Dragon Stronghold. There was almost no hope for them to snatch the City Lord's position. Third brother, let's go to the Great Wasteland Domain some other day. I wonder if you've improved? Do you dare to accept this challenge? Yun Dong coldly said. There's only 1 more month before the Great Wasteland Domain opens. Time really flies. We compete every year and this year will not be an exception. I hope third brother won't lose too badly this time. Yun Zhang disdainfully sneered. Yun Qi was favored the most by the city lord. All the first and second brothers especially hated him and tacitly suppressed him. Chapter 1178. Yi Qinghan's eyes suddenly lit up. He was just worrying about how to enter the Great Wasteland Domain when these 3 princes challenged him to a battle. This was truly a heaven-sent opportunity. When the battle was mentioned, Yun Qi's face turned ashen. It seemed that he had lost many times in the past. Before it was Yun Qi's turn to refuse, Yun Zhang and Yun Dong on the opposite side both spoke out with cold eyes and scorching ridicule, not giving Yun Qi a chance to refuse. Just accept it. My friend and I will help you fight. We definitely won't let you lose. Yi Qinghan said firmly. Yun Qi naturally wanted to turn the tables. He had lost miserably in the past, and several of his core members had been crippled. They were still recuperating. Now, there were not many who could fight. The gap between him and Yun Zhang and Yun Dong was huge. Yun Qi looked at Yi Qinghan's calm face and bitterly smiled. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but these bastards are too strong. Especially Long Jinghu and Di Feizuan. Even I don't have the confidence to win, let alone the others. At most, I can deal with Yun Zhang or Yun Qi. Forget it. Leave Di Feizuan and Long Jinghu to me and my brother. Don't worry, they won't have a second chance to fight. Yi Qinghan was incomparably strong. He hoped that Yun Qi would enter the Great Wasteland Domain and accept the challenge. Are you serious? Yun Qi frowned and asked suspiciously, these 2 people's cultivation is even stronger than that He Jundao. The 2 of you had to work together to kill He Jundao. Can you beat Di Feizuan or Long Zhenghu by yourselves? Killing and fighting are two different things. If we don't work together, He Jundao can escape at any time. But fighting is different. Once he escapes, it's equivalent to losing. Yi Qinghan acted as if nothing had happened. If Di Feizuan, Long Zhenghu, and Long Zhenghu were stronger than He Jundao, he would not be their match without using the Great Wasteland Dao scripture. But in order to enter the Great Wasteland domain, he had to trick Yun Qi into accepting the challenge. The two factions on the fourth floor mocked Yun Qi. But Yun Qi was a treacherous person. If not for Yi Qinghan's confidence in dealing with Di Feizuan and Long Zhenghu, he would not have accepted the challenge even if he had to throw away his face. What? Third brother, you don't have the guts now? I don't have to do anything. If you don't have the guts, then stop daydreaming. Boss Yun Zhang said disdainfully. That's right, third brother. You can enter the fragrance pavilion and sleep with the women there, but if you want to meddle in the affairs of the city, I think you should forget about it. Yun Dong followed up with a sneer. The mischievous people in the city are definitely the best at playing with women. We don't dare to compete with them. This Dongfang family is full of talents. They actually brought their younger sister here to pick up girls and sleep with women. What a weirdo. The people at Yun Zhang and Yun Dong's table all mocked them, causing Dongfang Haojuan and Yun Qi's faces to turn ashen. Dongfang Ling's eyebrows rose and fell as he glared at the two teams beside Yun Zhang and Yun Dong. He angrily rebuked, if Long Shishir can enter, why can't I? My brother is a weirdo, could it be that Long Zheng and Hu are weirdos too? How can it be the same? Your brother didn't come here just to eat meat and drink wine, but to sleep with women. Look at your table, which one of them doesn't have a woman in their arms? A young man beside Long Zheng and Hu mocked. Open your dog eyes and take a good look. Can't you see that there's no woman in Yi Qinghan's arms? Are you blind? I'm here to get to know fellow Yi. Dongfang Ling angrily said. Dongfang Haojuan's eyes flashed coldly as he stared at that young man. He hoarsely said, Qing Tong, don't tell me that you've never come here to sleep with women? What are you pretending to be virtuous for? If you want to fight, I'll accompany you anytime. Don't act like a dog, it makes me sick. Boom. A group of people suddenly stood up and opposed each other. Especially Dongfang Haojuan, Liang Feng, and the others beside Yi Qinghan. Their auras all exploded as they stared at Qing Tong. Yi Qinghan saw that the three sides were fighting and indifferently said, it's just a competition. Brother Yun doesn't want to accept because he's afraid of hurting the harmony between his brothers and slapping the faces of his two brothers. Since the two young masters and their guests are so aggressive, just accept it. It's still not clear who will win or lose. This sentence caused the atmosphere to become even more violent. The spiritual fluctuations in the air were abnormally obvious. This is the Sweet Fragrance Pavilion, the property of the Yun family. The three young masters can't destroy their own property. It's not worth it to anger the city lord. A mature woman appeared on the fourth floor. Compared to Sister Yao, she was even more charming and seductive. Moreover, her power wasn't small and was enough to control the entire situation. Sister Yao couldn't compare to her. A simple sentence made the three young masters, Dongfang Haojuan, and the others immediately put down their banners and stopped fighting. Yes, Mistress 13. We were just joking. We definitely won't fight here. Yun Zhang and the others quickly replied. Mistress 13 coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan. With a cold snort, she quietly disappeared from the fourth floor. Spatial spiritual quality. This Mistress 13 actually had a rare spatial spiritual quality. She could control space at will, teleport, and injure people without them noticing. In addition, she was doted on by the city lord, which was why she was able to take charge of the Sweet Fragrance Pavilion in Cloud City. Even Sister Yao was under her control. Chapter 1179. The Great Wasteland Domain was located in the east of the Snow Empire's divine realm. The Primal Chaos Domain was just a small corner of the Great Wasteland Domain. It was almost completely surrounded by the Great Wasteland Domain. Although it was very small, it was very complete. The Snow Empire's divine realm was the closest world to the Great Wasteland Domain. Back then, the Snow Empire's divine realm naturally had a part in the encirclement of the Great Wasteland domain. The Realm Lord also took action. Therefore, the most powerful Great Wasteland domain was annihilated. All living things were annihilated. The great Tao of reincarnation was suppressed. Billions of souls could not be appealed to and could only struggle in the depths of hell. The energy of all living things was conserved. Although all living things in the Great Wasteland domain died, their energy did not dissipate. The hell of reincarnation was suppressed and could not reincarnate. Those dead souls could not be released in the hell of reincarnation. The resentment in the Great Wasteland domain was very heavy. Only the Realm Lords knew about this. Therefore, if one wanted to enter the Great Wasteland domain, one must be a trustworthy supreme god or a member of the Realm Lord's family. The Great Wasteland domain was extremely dangerous. Everything in the Great Wasteland domain was desolate, and people could be killed invisibly. The Great Wasteland domain was boundless, and the power of desolates permeated the air like a surging sea. In order to eliminate the influence of the power of desolates on the Realm Lords, the 7 Realm Lords had joined forces to imprison the Great Wasteland domain. The power within the Great Wasteland domain would not rush out of the Great Wasteland domain and affect the judgment of the Realm Lords. Yi Qinghan strongly hoped that Yun Qi would agree to the competition between Yun Zhang and Yun Qi. He did not even hesitate to be high-profile and confront the geniuses of both sides. Since Brother Yi is so confident, then let's agree, Yun Qi said firmly. To Yun Qi, he had already lost so many times. One more time did not matter. Yi Qinghan was very excited. He looked forward to the Great Wasteland domain. It was as if that was his route. The Lord of Desolation, the battle of gods in the Chaos Realm, his identity, and the passage to the Chaos Realm seemed to have something to do with the Great Desolation Realm. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists, looking forward to this trip to the Great Desolation Realm. Yi Qinghan sank into contemplation, but the others did not. Long Shirshir kept staring at him. Half of her face was covered by the cup. Her round eyes were bright and full of curiosity. After the meal, Yi Qinghan left the fragrance pavilion early. After bidding farewell to Yun Qi, he went to look for Emoli. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice, "Everything is ready. Now, all we need to do is to enter the Great Wasteland domain. There's no need for us to meet the Realm Lord, nor do we need to wait for the Realm Lord's written order. We've saved a year's time. Now, let's return to the Black Sky County. Although we're leaving, it won't stop us from establishing a small force there and nurturing some talents." Mo Li's face was expressionless as he silently followed them from a short distance away, leaving the city amongst the clouds. Once the two of them left the city amongst the clouds, they traveled as fast as lightning, and they were like 2 sharp swords that pierced the sky. The two of them arrived at the entrance at almost the same time. When the entrance opened, they looked at each other and smiled indifferently. Black Sky County, Fragrance Pavilion. Sister Yao was extremely conflicted. She wanted to escape but was unable to do so. Yi Qinghan was like a piece of sticky candy. Once entangled, there was no way to get rid of him. This Yi Qinghan has an unknown background and a powerful cultivation. Could he really be from the Realm Army? Deserter? Retired Realm Army? Sister Yao thought to herself, but she did not think so. The Realm Army had a high status. Many people would break their heads trying to get in. No one would desert. If he was a retired Realm Army, then naturally, no one would dare to chase after him. The Realm Army was the face of the Snow Empire's God Realm. Once he retired, the Realm Lord would personally arrange a position for him. At the very least, he would be given the position of county governor. How could he be like Yi Qinghan and Emoli? It can't be the Realm Army. Then who were the two of them? They are ambitious and courageous. They killed a county governor and attracted such a terrifying existence. Their souls patrolled half of the country. They are definitely peak paramount god existences. Sister Yao could not figure it out. She shook her head fiercely and looked at the scenery outside the window. She was not in the mood to appreciate it at all. No one would dare to provoke someone like Yi Qinghan. Unfortunately, Sister Yao had already provoked him. It was too late to regret now. At this moment, Sister Yao felt someone behind her. She quickly turned around. Who else could it be but Yi Qinghan? Yi Qinghan had a strange smile on his face that made people shudder. You're back. How did it go? Sister Yao frowned. Perfect. I don't need to participate in the elite competition or go through Yun Zhonghai. I can enter the Great Wasteland domain in a few days. Yi Qinghan looked straight at Sister Yao. Congratulations. Sister Yao pretended to be relaxed and smiled. Yi Qinghan looked at Sister Yao's formal appearance and a strange light flashed in his eyes. He took out a pouch and said calmly, "This is the pouch Yun Zhonghai gave you." Sister Yao was stunned. She reached out and took it but did not open it. It seems you two really do have some sort of relationship, Yi Qinghan said calmly. A femme fatale. Two half-step overgods are fighting over her. Shouldn't a rookie like me step aside? It's good that you know. The consequences of interfering in their business are very serious, Sister Yao said coldly. The atmosphere in the room was strange. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and locked the door. He walked over to Sister Yao and looked down at her with a sinister smile. I'm a despicable person. The more difficult something is, the more I like to do it. The more dangerous and exciting it is, the more motivated I am. Sister Yao was a little impatient. She frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan's cruel expression. She wanted to say something but stopped. She did not know what to say. I like women like you who can't be conquered. You're very challenging, Yi Qinghan said calmly. I have a man I like, Yun Zhonghai. We used to be lovers and we still are. At first, I thought you were just a capable young man. Who would have thought? Sister Yao sighed helplessly. Who would have thought that not only am I capable but I'm also ambitious? Is your enemy stronger? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Sister Yao nodded expressionlessly. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. Then he said hoarsely, if I want you to help me build the Frost Demon Stronghold, train top experts, and serve me, give up Yun Zhonghai, and support me with all your secret forces, will you agree? Sister Yao's patience ran out. She looked at Yi Qinghan impatiently and said coldly, don't push your luck. I won't put my fate on someone as dangerous as you. Yi Qinghan smiled. He turned his back to Sister Yao and stopped pestering her. Sister Yao was stunned. She did not expect Yi Qinghan to give up pestering her. She felt an inexplicable sense of loss. I came back this time because I want you to take over Black Sky County. And Jiolong and Yi Qinghan are brainless and not suitable to be the county governor. The others don't have the strength. Only you have the ability. Since you don't want to cooperate, I'll give Black Sky County to you. Yi Qinghan thought for a long time and said in a low voice, I hope you can take care of the Frost Demon Stronghold. I need it to grow. I didn't expect you to take advantage of me. Sister Yao snorted. Chapter 1180. After a night of intense fighting, Yi Qinghan left with a loud laugh, showing his arrogance. Sister Yao stood at the top of the fragrant pavilion, looking at Yi Qinghan's departure. Her eyes were blurred, and her black hair fluttered in the wind. Her long skirt fluttered, and her slender legs stood proudly. Mo Li was already waiting for them outside the Black Sky County's domain gate. The two of them gathered, opened the domain gate, and rushed out of Cloud City. One day later, Yi Qinghan and Mo Li appeared in Cloud City. Snow Country, Divine World, and other major cities were preparing to enter the Great Wasteland Domain. Every 100 years, the Great Wasteland Domain would be closed for a period of time. Otherwise, the gloomy aura in the Great Wasteland Domain would affect the minds of the elites. Therefore, the opening day was the busiest day for all the major worlds. Not only Snow Country's and Divine World's experts would enter the Great Wasteland Domain to train. Void Domain, Ultimate Martial Domain, Great Wasteland Domain, Snow Country's Divine World, True Spirit Domain, Supreme Domain, Divine Martial Domain, Six Beast Domain, and the Primal Chaos Domain that was looked down upon by the other 8 domains. It just so happened that the Primal Chaos Domain was not qualified to participate. Back then, the Great Wasteland Domain was a maverick and was the strongest. The Lord of Desolation's strength surpassed the other 7 domain lords. In the end, he was besieged. He was not even accused of besieging the Great Wasteland Domain. It was as if someone had tacitly agreed to it. He forced his way into the Great Wasteland Domain and destroyed it. As for why they besieged the Great Wasteland Domain, only the 7 domain lords knew. However, the Lord of Desolation's strength was indeed extraordinary. He almost destroyed the souls of the 7 domain lords. Other than the domain lords of Snow Country and Divine World, the others had been hiding for countless eras. Yi Qinghan was very excited. He wanted to enter the Great Wasteland Domain to investigate and uncover the history of the past. Every major city had a domain gate that led directly to the Great Wasteland Domain. Some of the weaker city lords had personally gone to the Great Wasteland Domain to train and strive to become supreme gods. Yun Zhongjuan did not appear, which relieved some of Yi Qinghan's pressure. Facing an existence close to Supreme God would obviously be pressured and afraid of exposing his identity. However, Yun Zhonghai appeared. He looked at Yi Qinghan from afar and did not go up to greet him. He only nodded to himself and then turned to look elsewhere. Yun Qi gave a simple introduction, explaining the division of forces in Cloud City so that Yi Qinghan could have a general understanding. At least 200 experts appeared in front of the domain gate. This was only the forces of the city amongst the clouds. Once the experts of all the cities of the Snow Empire and the realm of the gods gathered, there would be at least several tens of thousands of people. These were all top-notch existences. No one below the half-step utmost being was a match for him. Brother Yi, once we enter the Great Wasteland Domain, don't run around. At least help me win the arranged battle before running away, Yun Qi said worriedly. Don't worry, do I look like such an unreliable person? Yi Qinghan promised. At this moment, Yun Dong sneered, Third brother, don't be fooled by others. Don't disappear as soon as you enter the Great Wasteland Domain. Some people might be approaching you because they want to enter the Great Wasteland Domain. This kind of thing had happened before. In order to win against each other, the 3 princes would wantonly rope in their teammates. Even outsiders who did not know the truth would believe them. They had been tricked more than once. Yun Qi had been tricked the most. At this moment his expression changed. Yi Qinghan put his arm around Yun Qi's shoulder and said indifferently, Since I call you brother, I naturally won't leave you alone. If you suspect someone, don't use them. If you use someone, don't suspect them. Don't be fooled by others. Yun Qi thought about it and agreed. At this time, suspecting Yi Qinghan would definitely not be a good thing. It would instead affect the internal unity. About 2 hours later, everyone had arrived. There were less than 300 people. In the huge Cloud City, the area of influence was not much smaller than the Primal Chaos realm. Only 300 people were qualified to enter the Great Wasteland Domain. This showed that entering the Great Wasteland Domain was extremely difficult. Yun Zhonghai opened the domain gate and led his team into it. The domain gate was very large, and it could easily accommodate 300 to 500 people. Yi Qinghan and the others all followed in. After activating the domain gate, the stars moved and the river of stars trembled. In the blink of an eye, the 300 experts disappeared from the domain gate. This was a large-scale transmission array. It was unknown how many miles one needed to travel. It could not be transmitted in a short period of time. If the transmission failed, who knew where they would be sent to? Countless miles away, at the entrance of the Great Wasteland Domain, the universe barrier here had already been shattered. Back then, the Realm Lords had joined forces to shatter the defenses here. Not only was this place barren, but large patches of red soil were clearly not red soil. Instead, it was dyed red by blood. The entrance of the Great Wasteland Domain was sealed. Many forces had already gathered here, waiting for the entrance to open. Looking through the transparent enchantment, one could see through the Great Wasteland Domain. The interior was filled with majestic mountains and forests. It was vast and boundless. Powerful birds and countless gloomy creatures were shuttling back and forth. Even the enchantment could not block the austere aura. Rich power of desolates was surging within the Great Wasteland Domain like waves. The creatures here all had some power of desolates and were exceptionally powerful. They could tear apart mountains and rocks, move mountains and fill seas. It was definitely extremely dangerous. The desolate divine herbs that had survived for countless years were about to wither. However, no one cared about them because the Realm Lord did not allow anyone to bring the desolate divine herbs out. He did not allow anyone to cultivate the power of desolates. Whoever dared to disobey would have their entire sect exterminated. No one dared to go against the Realm Lord's will. Therefore, the geniuses and elites who entered the Great Wasteland domain would hunt for desolate divine beasts. Divine beasts were everywhere here. They did not have any natural enemies like humans. They absorbed the essence of heaven and earth and devoured divine herbs. Other than the fact that there was no Realm Lord, the Great Wasteland domain was no worse than the Great Wasteland domain during its peak. Therefore, this place was the best place to nurture geniuses. Outside the enchantment, there were many young geniuses. Handsome men and beautiful women gathered in groups of 3 or 5. They were all here in groups. They looked down on all living things and laughed arrogantly. They were especially hostile to the creatures of the outside world. 6 supreme gods stood proudly at the forefront. They were obviously the Tao protectors chosen by the various realms. They did not wish for the elites of their realms to be annihilated. The general trend of the world was invisibly controlled by the supreme gods. Their imposing backs were like a ravine that could not be crossed. Shuak Yi Qinghan and the others appeared at the entrance of the enchantment. Looking at the sea of people, there were at least 100,000 people. There were at least 20,000 experts from each realm who wanted to enter the Great Wasteland domain. They felt an inexplicable anger in their hearts. It was as if their private forbidden land had been trampled on. Looking at the Great Wasteland domain through the enchantment, Yi Qinghan's heart was in turmoil. His surging emotions were unable to calm down. His mind was in a mess. He seemed to have thought of something, but he was unable to grasp the main point. Everyone was still waiting. Tomorrow was the day they would enter the Great Wasteland domain. Yun Qi pulled the absent-minded Yi Qinghan and whispered, "Let's set up camp first. This place is very dangerous. Before entering, we must maintain our peak condition. If we encounter any creatures from the outside world, we must be careful. Especially those bastards from the non-traveler realm. They are very easy to kill." Yi Qinghan swept his gaze over the crowd. He discovered a large open space that no one was willing to approach. However, he could feel some energy fluctuations there. He had encountered creatures from the non-traveler realm before and was quite sensitive. He knew that this was where the creatures from the non-traveler realm were stationed. Chapter 1181. Everyone had their own considerations. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, had his own concerns. Looking at the surging power of desolates in the Great Wasteland domain, he actually lost control of the Great Wasteland monument in his body. The blood in his body also flowed faster. It was as if there were tens of thousands of insects crawling under his flesh and blood. "Emily, wait until I enter the Great Wasteland domain. If you lose control, suppress me immediately." Yi Qinghan's ancient voice was somewhat hoarse. Even his voice had changed. Emily looked at Yi Qinghan's serious expression and was somewhat worried that he would lose control in the Great Wasteland domain. Once he lost control, he would definitely stir up the power of desolates. At that time, the Realm Lord would not even need to do anything. Those supreme gods would be able to crush him into pieces. Even with the Great Wasteland monument, he would not be able to escape death. Are you sure you want to take the risk? Once you lose control, you won't have a chance. Perhaps Emily sympathized with Yi Qinghan and reminded him in a low voice. Yi Qinghan was silent for a while and said in a hoarse voice, "I will have to face it sooner or later. This matter cannot be avoided. I can only face it head-on and accept the test. Good luck. If you are in danger, I will not save you," Emily said in a muffled voice. Yi Qinghan nodded. He took out an image stone and said in a hoarse voice, "If I die in the Great Wasteland domain, give this image stone to Emperor Yi and Wenin. They will understand." Emoli grabbed the image stone and directly put it into his universe ring. After that, he maintained a certain distance from Yi Qinghan. Night fell. Yi Qinghan restrained his aura and tried his best to regulate his breathing to calm himself down. He secretly told himself that no matter what he recalled in the Great Wasteland domain, he could not lose control. He was Yi Qinghan, and the Desolate's master was not him. He had only inherited the desolate's master's inheritance. The hatred was not his, and there was no need to go crazy over the hatred from back then. After a night of silence, no one did anything out of control. Everyone was at peace. Only the people from the endless realm were floating around. Although they could not be seen, the energy fluctuations they gave off could still be felt. 2 occasions when the people from the endless realm wandered around Yi Qinghan's place, they were discovered by him. The next day, Yi Qinghan woke up from his meditation, feeling refreshed. He exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and found that everyone was ready. Long Shirshir sighed. She was looking at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan did not look at him. Instead, he looked at the world inside the Great Wasteland domain and constantly reminded himself not to lose control. However, he was stopped by Emoli in advance. "Young Master Yun, don't be anxious. Let's stall for time. He will come back," Emoli said firmly. "Where is he going?" Yun Qi asked angrily. He felt that he had been deceived. "He has something to deal with first. When he comes back, he will give you an explanation. If he wants to leave, he won't leave me behind," Emoli reminded in a low voice. Just at this moment, Long Shirshir quietly changed her direction and chased after Yi Qinghan's back. The desolate clouds rolled over and over. They were like waves that could be touched with one's hand. The extremely low clouds suppressed everyone. The gloomy cold air accompanied by baleful aura attacked everyone's soul. Anyone who came here for the first time would be frightened. This had nothing to do with willpower or Dao heart. It was just that this place was too frightening. It was even more frightening than hell. Yi Qinghan's clothes fluttered in the wind. The cold wind washed away the madness, leaving behind a heart full of vicissitudes. His face was ferocious and the tears in his eyes couldn't be stopped. The memories in his sea of consciousness began to roll over. One after another, experts rushed into the Great Wasteland domain and massacred all living things. 7 realm lords besieged one person. This scene was familiar. It looked a bit like the scene on Owl War Star. However, the degree of devastation was incomparable. An entire world, the Great Wasteland domain, the strongest world among the 9 worlds, was massacred by 7 worlds. Someone was deliberately spinning the roulette, wanting to destroy the Great Wasteland domain. The memories of the Lord of Desolation were completely compatible with Yi Qinghan. The 2 of them had merged into one and couldn't be separated. The power of desolation in the sky surged and drilled into Yi Qinghan's body. The Great Wasteland Monument was doing its best to suppress it. It was restraining it and didn't trigger any more heaven and earth anomalies. Back then, was it me who made the primal chaos world's supreme gods kill each other and nurture a realm lord? So it was me who pushed everything? Yi Qinghan fell into madness. He seemed to hate himself. However, he had no choice but to do this. The primal chaos world didn't have a realm lord. It seemed a little weak for him to protect the 2 worlds alone. Yi Qinghan walked faster and faster. His memories also flipped faster and faster. A large number of horrifying scenes appeared in his mind. The bloody situation changed drastically. Saw the people of the Great Wasteland domain being massacred. He couldn't walk anymore and knelt on the ground. He hugged his head with his hands and screamed in anger. The memories of the realm lords were all flipped over. Even his soul spirit couldn't control it. Long Shirshir, who was following behind Yi Qinghan, looked at the lonely back view. Tears flowed out of her eyes for no reason. Chapter 1182. Yi Qinghan bent down deeply, kneeling on the ground and pulling at his hair. He wanted to pull those memories out of his sea of consciousness. Clouds of desolation had already appeared on the ground, rolling in from afar as if the end of the world had arrived. Buzz, buzz. The mark on Yi Qinghan's forehead constantly emitted waves of light. The Great Wasteland Monument was suppressing the power of the Desolation God in his body. The Desolation divine light flowed on the surface of his body, transforming his body. The Great Desolation Tao scripture had completely appeared in his sea of consciousness. At this moment, the Great Desolation Tao scripture was no longer difficult to understand. As long as he had the power of the Desolation God, he could use it effortlessly. The great desolation Tao physique began to slowly form under the operation of the power of desolation. Yi Qinghan was not in the mood to care. He just silently recalled the memories in his sea of consciousness. It was impossible to say how many living beings had survived for half a year under the siege of the Seven Realms. Unfortunately, the primal chaos realm still hadn't produced a new realm lord. In the end, Wild's forces were exhausted, and he used his last bit of life force to activate a forbidden art from the Great Desolation Taoist scripture, severely injuring the Seven Realm Lords. Then, he sent away a loyal guard general to the primal chaos realm, where he set up a restrictive spell that prevented anyone with a cultivation base above the paramount god level from entering. After many years, the realm lords recovered most of their strength. If they wanted to open a passage between realms, they would need a lot of time and energy. A small place like the Chaos Realm was not worth their time and energy. Furthermore, the overgods could not open the entrance. Unless it was a coincidence, those above the overgod level could not enter the Chaos Realm. Only those below the overgod level could enter, and the Chaos Realm survived. After understanding everything, Yi Qinghan touched the blood-colored soil on the ground. This was the blood-colored soil that was formed by the blood of the people of the Great Desolation World. Is it because I'm affecting your rule? Was it because I could reverse fate? Was it because you tacitly agreed and even hinted to the other realm lords to besiege me, even at the cost of destroying a realm to destroy me? Yi Qinghan's voice was completely hoarse. He could not even speak clearly. He looked up at the sky, the sorrow and desolation in his eyes indescribable. Those who defy the heavens will perish, those who obey the heavens will grieve. I didn't believe it back then, and I still don't believe it in this life. Since I was able to break free from the reincarnation of hell, I will seek justice for the countless living beings in the great wasteland domain. Yi Qinghan punched the bloody ground. His eyes flashed with a red glow, cruel and ruthless. The corners of his mouth twitched in an extremely terrifying manner. Long Shirshir was stunned as she stared at Yi Qinghan's back. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't know why. Perhaps it was because the desolation in his back made her feel pain, or perhaps it was because... Suddenly, desolation clouds filled the air and swept over from afar, directly rushing into Yi Qinghan's body. His powerful body almost collapsed and returned to desolation. The pain caused him to involuntarily groan and scream. The divine charm on the surface of his body had completely disappeared. He was like an old withered tree bark or a dried-up river channel, without any signs of life. The great desolate Tao physique was unintentionally formed. The power of desolates flowed through his limbs and bones. The vast divine power of desolation swarmed in from all directions and gathered in his body. Yi Qinghan didn't even have the slightest bit of consciousness. The great wasteland tablet had done everything he could. After going through untold hardships to condense the 9-revolution primal chaos Tao physique, he still didn't succeed in the end. However, the great desolate Tao physique actually succeeded in advance. This was perhaps something that Yi Qinghan had never dreamed of. Long Shirshir's eyes widened as if she had seen something unbelievable. Countless images flashed through her mind, but she couldn't capture a single image. So familiar. So familiar. Long Shirshir muttered to herself, as if she was recalling something, but she couldn't pinpoint it. The dense cold air covered the sky, and no one was willing to come close. The baleful aura here was enough to affect the mind of a half-step paramount god. Only Yi Qinghan was free of any baleful aura within 100 meters of him. It was as if the baleful aura was respectfully staying away, but was unwilling to leave and could only drift around nearby. Long Shirshir looked at the baleful aura behind her, which was like a sharp knife stabbing into her back. She couldn't help but shiver, and hurriedly moved closer to Yi Qinghan. An inexplicable pressure spread outward, and the wild beasts in the great wasteland seemed to have gone mad. They became violent and left their nests. The birds in the depths of the great wasteland blotted out the sky and the sun as they pressed toward the outer perimeter. A furious roar shook the clouds, and the mighty power of the desolation god pressed down on the 7 peak paramount gods protecting the young experts. The 7 experts frowned and became somewhat vigilant. This time, there was more than one wild beast of the great wasteland, and there were at least a dozen of them, and all of them were paramount gods. Then, the wild beasts of the great wasteland rushed over, as if warning these experts that this was their territory. What's going on? These wild beasts have never joined forces before. They're like a sheet of loose sand. Why are they joining forces now? The peak paramount gods of the Snow Empire and the celestial world began to slowly retreat. All experts of the Snow Empire and the celestial world, retreat. Do not move forward. The voice of the sagely old man turned into a thunderclap that reverberated in the depths of the great wasteland. Then the other 6 paramount gods issued the order to retreat. The great wasteland was like a loose sand that couldn't withstand a single blow. Any random large world could advance step by step like boiling a frog in warm water, and even destroy the great wasteland. But once they gathered and knew how to join forces, no one could shake the great wasteland, unless the realm lord himself came. This was the power of unity. Boom, boom, boom. The great wasteland was covered in blood and dust. Rumbling sounds came from the depths of the great wasteland, like 10,000 horses galloping. This was a true beast tide. Mountains and rivers stretched as far as the eye could see, filled with living creatures. Birds and beasts, beasts of all ages, could tear gods apart and trample mountains and rivers. The beasts sensed the return of the great wasteland's warlord. They worshipped the warlord and were willing to fight for him, even if it meant death. This was the territory of the great wasteland. Apart from the living creatures of the great wasteland, no one could trample on it. Yi Qinghan's will inadvertently affected the living creatures of the great wasteland, causing the first beast tide in countless epochs. Boom, boom. 10,000 beasts galloped. The warlord had returned and the world was at peace. Yi Qinghan's withered flesh became round again. His fingers pierced through the blood-stained rocks, and his tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. They were bloodshot, as if they weren't human eyes. His veins wriggled as if there were worms swimming on his skin. His vigorous face didn't change much, but it seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life, as if he had experienced the joys and sorrows of countless epochs. Of the 9 reincarnations, this was the life with the strongest cultivation. In fact, all 8 of them had fallen at the giant god realm. Although this time was weak, it didn't mean that there was no chance of a comeback. Sha, Yi Qinghan stood up. His body seemed to contain the power of the entire great wasteland, and he could mobilize the great wasteland to fight. A punch could break through the barriers of the 9 worlds, penetrate the body of a paramount god, and a stomp could shake mountains and rivers. His eyes contained a supreme will that didn't allow anyone to disobey. My apologies, my grandmother passed away yesterday. In order to update, I only went to read it once. I really didn't want to talk about my family's matters, but it caused many readers to curse and be confused. Tomorrow I will stay at the funeral for a day. I hope everyone can understand. There are only 3 chapters. Chapter 1183. Long Shirshir was frightened by Yi Qinghan's gaze and took a few steps back. She was somewhat flustered. This gaze was even more terrifying than the gaze of the city lord of Cloud City, Yun Zhongjuan. It was even more imposing and oppressive, making people not dare to look straight at it. What did you see? Yi Qinghan's hoarse voice did not have the slightest emotion as he asked coldly. Long Shirshir was frightened. She did not expect the cultured and refined man from before to become so violent and cold. She hurriedly explained, I was just passing by. I didn't see anything. I only saw you on the ground and wanted to help you up. Remember, trouble comes from the mouth. Don't make me want to kill you. Yi Qinghan coldly warned. Afterward, Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and the clouds dispersed. The baleful aura and gloomy aura became gentle. With a light stomp of his foot, a will was transmitted from the barren land to the depths. Everything roared, and waves of energy surged. Long Shirshir was frightened by Yi Qinghan. Without saying a word, she turned around and ran back. In the distance, all the experts were fleeing towards the exit of the great wasteland domain. The vicious beasts in the depths were still slowly attacking, pressuring everyone to the point that they did not dare to take even half a step forward. This was the Great Wasteland Domain. No one was allowed to behave atrociously here. Yi Qinghan's cold light pierced through thousands of miles. He stared at the hundreds of thousands of experts who were rushing over and retreating in defeat. A cold smile appeared on his face as he turned around and walked towards the depths. The creatures in the Great Wasteland Domain immediately submitted when they saw him. That faint aura of a warlord forced them to submit. They did not even have the will to resist. Yi Qinghan came to a mountain and looked towards the depths. The city where the Desolation Lord was overseen was very far away. With his current strength, he might not be able to reach there even if he flew for 1,000 years. Now that the domain gates in the Great Wasteland Domain had been destroyed, he could only build new ones. However, it was impossible for him to build such a long-distance teleportation domain gate with his current strength. Moreover, after he teleported away, he had to immediately destroy the domain gate here. He could not allow others to chase after him or leave any traces behind. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment, but he didn't go deeper. Instead, he sped back and prepared to take Emoli with him. After all, he needed the support of the primal chaos realm. Otherwise, how could he fight against the 7 realms by himself? As Yi Qinghan walked, he adjusted his breathing and suppressed his aura. The shocking blood vessels in his eyes gradually dissipated. The pressure of the Lord of Desolation also dissipated, making him seem like an ordinary young boy. At the exit, the 7 paramount gods had gathered all of their experts and were preparing to leave. However, the desolate beasts didn't come any closer. For a moment, they didn't know whether they should continue or retreat. Yi Qinghan blended into the crowd and found Yun Qi's group. Long Shirshir only lowered her head to sneak a glance at Yi Qinghan before looking away. Mo Li and Yun Qi looked at Yi Qinghan and their expressions changed slightly. "Are you done?" Mo Li asked in a low voice. "Yes." Yi Qinghan nodded. "I say, Brother Yi, if you have something to do and want to leave, you should at least discuss it with me. Otherwise, I'll lose my confidence and be humiliated by those 2 bastards," Yun Qi said unhappily. Yi Qinghan smiled and didn't reply. Instead, he looked for an opportunity to leave. "Everyone calm down. We'll wait for 2 hours. If these desolate beasts disperse, we'll continue to train. If they don't, we'll leave. No one is allowed to stay in the Great Desolation Realm," the sage-like old man said in a deep voice. "What's going on? I've never seen so many desolate beasts gathered together before. Furthermore, they're working together to deal with us," Yun Zhang asked with a frown. "It is indeed strange. I've been here no less than 10 times. This place is like a plate of loose sand, ready to be slaughtered. Now they're actually working together." Di Feizuan was also very puzzled. He didn't understand what was going on. Mo Li glanced at Yi Qinghan. He guessed that the phenomenon here was related to him. Yi Qinghan pretended to be curious as he looked at Yun Qi and asked, "What's going on?" "I don't know either. There seems to be a problem inside the Great Desolation Realm. In the past, the desolate beasts wouldn't work together. Instead, they would kill each other. This time, they're actually working together to resist. The elites of our 7 realms aren't enough to resist. It seems like the Realm Master will come out to patrol," Yun Qi replied in a low voice. Yi Qinghan was startled. He could hide it from the supreme gods, but he definitely couldn't hide it from the Realm Master. Right now, a lack of forbearance would spoil great plans. Before he had enough strength, he could only endure. Therefore, Yi Qinghan tapped the air with the tip of his foot and used the Great Desolation Realm to order the desolate beasts to retreat. The Great Desolation Realm was now one with Yi Qinghan. Although he couldn't use the Great Desolation Realm to fight, he could still use the most basic method of transmitting information. The desolate beasts received the order and quickly retreated. They came quickly and left quickly. Boom, boom, boom. The earth trembled slightly as the desolate beasts left. This caused everyone to be rather surprised. The desolate beasts in the Great Desolation Realm this year were too strange. After a long time, the desolate beasts completely left. There were only ordinary wild beasts and low-level desolate beasts left in the periphery. They didn't affect the experts of the 7 realms in the slightest. Everyone moved freely. However, Don't go too deep. The supreme gods of each realm were still very vigilant as they reminded everyone in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan looked at the 100,000 experts of the 7 realms. A cold glint flashed through his eyes. He was filled with hatred. Since you dared to come in, I dare to leave half of you behind. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. He gave Mo Li a look and then followed the others to disperse. Under the gaze of the supreme gods, the experts of each realm began to disperse. They formed small groups of 7 or 8 people and began to wander into the depths of the Great Desolation realm in search of prey and rare treasures. Large amounts of desolate god herbs could be found everywhere. However, this group of people turned a blind eye to them because they didn't dare to cultivate the power of desolation. Otherwise, their entire family would be exterminated. Yi Qinghan would always take away the treasure-level desolate god herbs when no one was paying attention. He and Mo Li slowly followed behind Yun Qi and the others. What are we going to do now? I heard that the Great Desolation realm is even bigger than the Snow Empire's divine world. Where are we going to find the entrance to the primal chaos realm? Mo Li asked with a frown. Yi Qinghan sneered and said in a hoarse voice, "What else can we prepare for? Let's just wait and watch the show. When these people enter the depths of the Great Desolation realm and fight for themselves, it will be time for blood." You're going to attack? Can you kill your way over? Mo Li asked doubtfully. There's no need for me to do it myself. This is the Great Desolation realm, my territory. I can control all living things within 1,000,000 kilometers, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. A strange glint flashed through Mo Li's eyes. He didn't say anything and just followed silently. 100,000 people entering the Great Desolation realm was like a grain of sand entering the ocean. They couldn't cause any waves. Yi Qinghan was waiting for them to get closer. His people were scattered and at this moment he was secretly mobilizing the desolate beasts in the depths of the Great Desolation realm to hide ahead. With Yi Qinghan's control, the desolate beasts that didn't have any intelligence became wise, treacherous, and knew how to set up ambushes and cooperate. They quietly waited for food to enter their mouths. Yun Qi was still leading the group deeper into the Great Desolation realm, preparing to kill desolate beasts and train. He was completely unaware of the danger. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was considering whether or not he should kill the people from the city amongst the clouds. Only by killing them would the others know nothing about him. Only after fusing with the memories did he understand that he was the Grand Desolate Battle Master, and the Grand Desolate Battle Master was him. The battle back then seemed like it had happened yesterday. Even as he looked at the memories, the huge hand could not help but want to stop him. Hum hum hum. Yi Qinghan's roar reverberated in the air. The suppressed aura within Yi Qinghan's body shot out in all directions. Even Mo Li felt a sense of suffocation. Yi Qinghan's current aura was simply too powerful. The warlord's aura had returned, and even though he was no longer as strong as before, his soul had inherited everything from the past. A single glance from him was enough to cause an overgod to tremble in fear, not daring to look directly at him. The dead are gone. No matter how angry we are now, we can't go back to the past. Right now, we should think of a way to increase our strength so that we can protect ourselves. Now that you have appeared, the 7 realms will definitely react violently. Once they take action, the primal chaos realm will definitely be affected. What we need to do now is to increase our cultivation and become a realm lord before the 7 realms lord is restored. Mo Li reminded in a muffled voice. How difficult was it to become a realm lord? After 1,000,000,000 years, there were only 8 realm lords in the 9 realms. Since the Great Desolate Realm's realm lord had fallen, there was still no one who could become a realm lord. In a situation where resources were so abundant, countless ferocious beasts stopped at the peak paramount god level. This was not a limitation of talent or resources, but a limitation of oneself. No one understood this principle better than Yi Qinghan. Now, even if he wanted to become a realm lord, it would be extremely difficult, let alone nurturing someone who could fight side by side with him. Yi Qinghan nodded and secretly pondered. There were not many people who could be nurtured now, but there were also quite a few. On the surface, there were at least 20 people who were worth nurturing, and there were more than 10 hidden experts who had yet to come out. They were all trustworthy people. With the resources of the eternal cloud sky great world and the great desolate realm, he had a 70 to 80% chance of nurturing them to the paramount god level. However, the chances of nurturing them to the realm lord level were slim. But, Lord Yi, this matter has nothing to do with us. Can you let us go? Long Jinghu asked respectfully. Yi Qinghan turned around and looked at Long Jinghu. The terrifying will in his eyes made it hard for him to breathe. His handsome face did not change, but his will and majesty had completely changed. It was as if he was a different person. Let you go? If it wasn't for the fact that Long Shirshir looked like an old friend of mine, the two of you would have already returned to the earth. Yi Qinghan's hoarse voice was emotionless as he replied coldly. Brother, we can submit. This time, so many people from the great desolate realm died. Father and the others will definitely not tell others that we are still alive. It's equivalent to us not existing anymore. It's not impossible for us to live with a different identity. Long Shirshir was the least frightened and could still think. However, Long Jinghu was different. His willpower had been crushed. His original wisdom had long since turned into muddle-headedness. If it's up to me, I'll just kill them and end this matter once and for all. Emoli said firmly. Yi Qinghan stared coldly at the siblings. His eyes flashed with killing intent. Long Shirshir and Long Jinghu were so frightened that they did not dare to speak. Their life and death were in Yi Qinghan's hands. After a long time, Yi Qinghan finally loosened his fist and said indifferently, "No need. Two insignificant people can't cause any big waves." Huff huff. Long Shirshir and Long Jinghu gasped for breath. Their hearts were about to shatter. The feeling of walking on the edge of death was too exhilarating. Emoli shook his head. Bai Xiaoxing's position in Yi Qinghan's heart was not inferior to Emperor Yi. Even if he died, it would be a glorious death. Just at this moment, an aurora pulled along the flames. The earth shook. The speed seemed to come from the upper realm and did not belong to the mortal realm. Whoosh! A white desolate beast appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. It looked a bit like a tiger or wolf, but it was obviously not one. It had a pair of black wings on its back and a heaven character on its forehead. It looked very majestic. "Welcome back, my lord." The desolate beast prostrated on the ground and spoke in human language. It was extremely respectful and did not dare to blaspheme. The heaven-taming beast, as its name implied, could control all the Daos in the heavens. Yi Qinghan's mouth curved into a smile. He jumped down from the back of the desolate tiger and stroked its pure white feathers. He missed the mount of the past. The powerful heaven-taming beast was not inferior to a realm lord. Its ancestor had once helped him resist the enemies and persevered until the end. Get up. Your strength is not bad. You did not lose face for your ancestor. Now, bring me to the great desolation palace. Yi Qinghan said gently. With so many desolate god herbs as food, the star-twining vine's million vines instantly extended to 1,000 meters long and started to climb towards the clouds. It looked like it was going to swallow everything in the world. Sha. The star-twining vine took the initiative and started to devour the plants around the Great Desolation Palace. The Great Desolation Palace was more than 1,000,000 miles wide. Even though much of it had collapsed, it was still not something an ordinary person could shake. The star-twining vine started to invade the surroundings from the main entrance. It seemed to be very fast, but compared to the Great Desolation Palace, even if it was given 10 years, it still wouldn't be able to encircle the Great Desolation Palace. However, under Yi Qinghan's will, these creatures didn't resist. Instead, they took the initiative to merge with the star-twining vine, increasing its speed. The heaven-taming beast was lying in front of the main entrance, watching Yi Qinghan step towards the Great Desolation Palace. Its deep eyes stared at him as if it was afraid that he would be attacked. Yi Qinghan held the saber and came to the main entrance. He looked at the lifelike dragon and phoenix stone sculptures on both sides. They were at least 1,000 feet long and were still resplendent after billions of years. Although the blood stains on them had dried up, he still remembered whose blood had dyed the stone sculptures red. Crack! The sound of bones breaking reverberated and woke Yi Qinghan up. He gently bent down and looked at the two withered bones at his feet. After so many years, they had been weathered, but they still retained their shape. It could be seen how powerful they were when they were alive. The deputy guard captain of the Great Desolation Guard, the Dragon's Resentment. Yi Qinghan squatted down and revealed a mournful smile. Back then, he had accompanied him to the end. He had been stabbed thousands of times and was almost killed by 1,000 cuts. Before he died, he had stood in front of the Great Desolation Palace with his spear, not allowing any enemy to approach him. I was a hero in life and a hero in death. Dragon's Resentment, even though I have reincarnated 1,000 times, I still remember you. Yi Qinghan put away his madness and held the handful of bone powder that had turned into yellow soil. His tears flowed uncontrollably. Yi Qinghan placed the handful of bone ashes into a jade bottle and kept it in the Great Wastelands Monument. He chose to continue venturing deeper. The people from back then had all disappeared. Only the Dragon's Resentment was the strongest and the toughest spine had been preserved to this day. The interior of the Great Desolation Palace was desolate. It had long been plundered clean by the 7 realms. Not a single magical treasure from back then was left. Someone had even ignited a sky-burning fire in an attempt to erase all traces of the Great Desolation Palace. However, the Great Desolation Palace was a powerful existence. The 7 realm lords were all severely injured and did not have the heart to destroy a palace. This was why the Great Desolation Palace was preserved. Traces of the past could still be seen in the interior garden. Unfortunately, things had changed. There were no longer any traces of humans. In the vast Great Desolation domain, there were countless humans, but not a single one of them had survived. Anger. Yi Qinghan's heart was only filled with anger. Other than the 10,000 desolate beasts that had survived, the 10,000 human races and intelligent races had all been massacred. The 7 realm lords did not allow the power of desolates to continue, which was why the desolation divine herbs were everywhere. None of you were willing to cultivate, nor did you allow others to cultivate. You left behind all these rare treasures for me to take my revenge. Yi Qinghan raised the corner of his lips. His cold expression was extremely cruel and ruthless. Yi Qinghan quickened his pace and entered the interior of the Great Desolation Palace. This Great Desolation Palace was equivalent to a region. Even though his strength had increased significantly, it would still take some time to traverse through the Great Desolation Palace. 1 hour later, Yi Qinghan appeared outside a main hall in the center of the Great Desolation Palace. He looked at the collapsed stone walls. The desolation divine herbs were almost heaven-defying and had spirituality that made people drool. Swish, swish, swish. Yi Qinghan formed seals with his hands and absorbed the power of desolation into his body. The desolation light flowed throughout his body. Traces of divine radiance appeared on the surface of the ground that could be seen clearly with the naked eye. Great Desolation Divine Bead. In the name of the Battle Lord, I command you to return. Yi Qinghan's deep voice sounded a little hoarse. He raised his hands in the air and something with spirituality seemed to be awakening underground. It caused the Great Desolation Palace to be immersed in a rich power of desolates. Boom, boom, boom. The collapsed stone walls collapsed for a second time. Many rocks were turned into dust. A ray of light shot into the clouds and a fist-sized divine pearl appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. Ding. The Great Desolation God Lord was the artifact spirit of the Lord of Desolation. He possessed boundless vitality and fed on the power of desolates. Over the years, the Great Desolation domain didn't have a realm lord. Instead, the artifact spirit's strength didn't weaken. Because of the rich power of desolation, it became much stronger. Shwa. Yi Qinghan reached out his hand and grabbed the Great Desolation Divine Pearl. The surging divine power uncontrollably squeezed into Yi Qinghan's body. In an instant, his corporeal body was almost shattered. I can't let it fuse with the Great Desolation Monument now. Otherwise, the complete Realm Lord Divine artifact will appear. It will definitely alarm the 7 Realm Lords. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He grabbed the frenzy saber and threw the great desolation divine pearl into the energy slot of the frenzy saber's hilt. Although the wild beasts were working together to kill the cultivators of the 7 realms, they were also killing each other. They did not seem to be working together. They still did not have intelligence. This was just a facade that Yi Qinghan had ordered them to make. It was to stall for time and not let the sector lord get involved so early, giving him time to cultivate and develop. In the end, the paramount gods of the 7 realms took their elites and left the Grand Wild's world. Less than 10% of them remained. In total, the 7 realms had only lost about 10,000 people. Should we inform the realm lord to come and intervene? The top experts of the 7 realms asked. Our realm lord is injured and has warned us many times not to disturb them unless something major happens. It seems that the Great Wasteland realm came prepared this time, but they are also fighting each other. It seems that the nature of the situation hasn't changed. It shouldn't be controlled by anyone. It's very likely that this is a spontaneous beast tide between wild beasts. It'll be fine in a few days, there's no need to make a big fuss. The paramount god of the ultimate martial realm said indifferently. Our Wayless realm has suffered very few losses. We'll leave first. The experts of the Wayless realm were covered in blood. They were not always invisible and traceless. Once they were stained with their own blood, they would reveal themselves and their battle prowess would be greatly weakened. Not willing to stay for long, they left with their clansmen. The 7 realms did not agree. They all hoped that the realm lords of the other realms would intervene. They did not want their own realm lords to investigate. In the end, the 7 paramount gods all left the Grand Wild's world with their elites and resealed the entrance. The Snow Country and God World had suffered heavy losses, but there was a group of people who did not lose much. That was Yun Zhonghai. His elegant face was still very calm, as if he had not experienced death. The dozen or so powerful followers behind him were still in shock, but at least they were not as dazed as the others. Yi Qinghan climbed to the top of the Grand Wild's palace. Looking at the entrance of the Grand Wild's world, he said hoarsely, "This is only the beginning. The world will tremble because of my anger. The one who spins the roulette, when the Grand Wild's world was destroyed, you also suffered heavy losses. All things in the world reinforce and counteract each other. You kill 1,000 enemies, but you lose 800 of your own. You stand above the rules, but you do not leave the rules. One day, I will trample you under my feet and wantonly change your fate." Yi Qinghan clenched his 10 fingers into the sky, and all the power of desolation in the world entered his body. The divine power in his body surged like a torrential river hitting the shore. Chapter 1188. With a different height and position, one's view of the world would be different. Yi Qinghan looked at Emoli again. He no longer had any thoughts of revenge. This was a personal grudge, and there were more important benefits for them to work together. Let's go back. There are people from the Endless Realm in the Great Wasteland Realm. I have to find them as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Primal Chaos Realm will be disintegrated from the inside. Yi Qinghan muttered, not paying any attention to Long Shirshir. He didn't know why, but he felt a little conflicted about communicating with Long Shirshir. It was as if there were some memories that he had yet to recover, memories that he didn't want to recall. Yi Qinghan did not want to communicate with Long Shirshir, and Long Jinghu did not dare to speak. They remained silent along the way. The heavenly taming beast walked at the front and quickly approached the Primal Chaos Realm's passageway. Yi Qinghan had spent a lot of effort to create this passageway to make it easier to enter the Primal Chaos Realm. Even the Realm Lord could not easily open the passageway between the 9 realms. Along the way, Yi Qinghan kept taking away the desolate god herbs and repeated the same action. His mind was blank. He did not want to think about anything and could not remember anything. The passage to the Primal Chaos Realm was not far from the north of the Great Wasteland Palace. A group of 4 appeared at the Whirlpool enchantment. It was colorful and the energy fluctuation was abnormally obvious. It was hundreds of meters tall and reached the sky. Those who surpassed the giant god realm, even a half-step supreme god, could not enter the Primal Chaos Realm. This was the world point that Yi Qinghan had set up in the past. It was the only barrier that delayed the primal chaos realm for countless years. It had blocked the footsteps of countless experts. Although this barrier blocked the enemies, existences like the heaven-taming beast could not enter. Even the fox-eagle could not enter. Yi Qinghan waved his hand to signal the fox-eagle and the heaven-taming beast to retreat. He told them not to fight against the experts of the 7 realms. These desolate beasts were his strongest helpers against the experts of the 7 realms. Back then, the Great Wasteland realm was so powerful but still lost. Now, he could only rely on them. After the heaven-taming beast and the falcon eagle left, Yi Qinghan looked at the passageway's world point and said in a low voice, "The other end of this passageway is the depths of the eternal cloud sky great world. There are many terrifying beasts inside that are not under my control. You guys have to be careful." Emoli had been to the Wangu Yuntian before, but he was thrown out the moment he entered. He definitely understood the dangers inside the Wangu Yuntian. Emoli was helpless and could only shake his head. At this moment, dozens of figures were fleeing in a sorry state. Behind them were more than 10 powerful beasts from the wolf race. White light from their sharp claws tore through the darkness as they quickly approached Yi Qinghan's group. Now that the eternal Yuntian Great World's entrance had been divided, they were already mining the resources inside. They would definitely clash with the native beasts of the eternal Yuntian Great World. This was just the beginning. Yi Qinghan raised his head and looked over, wanting to see who the other party was. Chapter 1189. The other party quickly closed in on Yi Qinghan and the rest, but they didn't notice Yi Qinghan. They were just fleeing in panic. More and more beasts were chasing after them, and some races had already joined forces to attack. The Aboriginals wanted to expel the humans from the Wangu Yuntian. This was their territory, and they couldn't allow humans to step in. All beasts hated humans. As long as they had intelligence, they wouldn't want humans to step into the Wangu Yuntian. Therefore, when the various Holy Lands geniuses stepped in, the war between the Wangu Yuntian and the primal chaos plane had already begun. Their figures flitted across the forest, startling countless birds. More and more creatures joined in the attack, delaying their footsteps. Idiot! The space in the Wangu Yuntian is stable, and soul spirit search is greatly restricted. The beasts can only search with their naked eyes. Although they are flying in the sky, aren't they just becoming targets for the beasts? Yi Qinghan frowned. He finally discovered the identity of this group of experts. They were actually from the Karma Holy Land and Shenyuan Holy Land. Young Master Wen, Ji Tian, and Green Emperor Shenyuan were all there. Yi Qinghan relied on his world overlord's soul spirit to search tens of thousands of li without any problem. After confirming the arrival, he transmitted, "You guys continue forward, but lower your altitude. Follow the ground and avoid the blind spots of the birds." Hearing the transmission, Green Emperor Shenyuan and the rest immediately lowered their altitude and traveled along the edge of the rock layer. Their speed was greatly reduced, but those powerful beasts could only rely on their noses to lock onto their aura. After an incense stick's worth of time, Green Emperor Shenyuan, Ji Tian, and Young Master Wen encountered Yi Qinghan. Their eyes were filled with shock. They didn't expect that Yi Qinghan would actually come here. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and a faint power of desolates covered their aura. They hid in a canyon, and the bracelet on his hand turned into a sharp knife and pierced into the cliff. The cliff automatically parted, revealing a narrow cave. The great desolation god Pearl changed the order of the mountain, and Yi Qinghan immediately brought everyone into the cave. Sha. After everyone entered the cave, they discovered that it was completely empty. It was like a huge cave with rocks falling down, and the bottom couldn't be seen. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and sealed off the cave. The beasts outside had completely lost track of them and could only roar angrily in the outside world. "Let's go down." Yi Qinghan was the first to jump into the karst cave. A huge divine stone appeared in his hand, illuminating the entire karst cave. A group of people were hiding at the bottom of the mountain. Their hearts were palpitating and their souls were still unsettled. We siblings aren't from the primal chaos realm. We're from the Snow Empire's god realm. Long Shirshir looked at Yi Qinghan and took the initiative to explain. Then Long Zhenghu activated the spiritual space. The power system was completely different from the people of the primal chaos world. At this time, Xinyuan Qing Emperor and Ji Tian understood that the primal chaos world wasn't the only great realm in the world. The primal chaos world is very small. It is a world of its own. However, it is very small. It is like a big city in other realms. In the past, the 7 realms were too lazy to waste time destroying it. However, it is hard to say in the future. Yi Qinghan sighed. Long Zhenhu snorted and thought to himself, when the 7 realms know that you have reincarnated and returned, not only will they destroy the primal chaos world, but even the great wasteland world will be crushed. The 7 realms master will never give you a chance to grow. Although Emperor Xinyuan, Ji Tian, and the others understood the general meaning, they were still confused about the creatures of the 7 realms. They didn't feel a strong sense of danger, and their recognition of Yi Qinghan wasn't that exaggerated. Yi Qinghan didn't explain too much. It would be safer if fewer people knew about his identity. Long Shirshir, Long Zhenghu, and Long Zhenghu would definitely be brought back to the Endless Star System. They wouldn't be able to leave the Owl War planet. As for Mo Li, he understood that once the news of Yi Qinghan being the master of the great wasteland world spread out, the primal chaos world would definitely be destroyed. He wouldn't gain anything from this. He wouldn't betray his mother realm for the sake of becoming stronger, nor would he become the slave of another realm's master. Everyone waited until dawn. When the powerful night creatures all retreated, Yi Qinghan and the rest left the cave and began to speed away. With the support of Yi Qinghan's divine sense, he knew clearly where the danger was and where it wasn't within a 3,000 li radius. Therefore, his speed was very fast. He didn't encounter a single powerful existence even after traveling for a few million li. Chapter 1191. The Wangu Yuntian was vast and boundless. With Yi Qinghan's divine sense as a guide, it was almost unimpeded. After traveling for 3 consecutive days, they finally crossed the entire Wangu Yuntian. However, the first entrance they approached was not the entrance of the Kuang sect, but the entrance of the Demon God Mountain. When the people of the Demon God Mountain discovered Mo Li and Yi Qinghan, they quickly led the experts to welcome them. Have you found out who attacked us in the 6 realms divine city? Mo Li's first sentence was to ask. That group of people disappeared, but we met the leader again in the 6 realms divine city. He said that a very important person died in the process of chasing the divine bird, and the divine bird did not speak a single word of truth. We also could not find out where that person's corpse was, and the clues were cut off. Qin Wendian immediately replied. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose. He did not expect the divine bird and the little miser to work together to kill a saint master. I'll go to the entrance of the Kuang sect and check where that person died. Maybe I can find some clues. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and threw Long Shirshir and Long Zhenghu to Mo Li. After getting the map, he quickly rushed to the entrance of the Wangu Yuntian where the Kuang sect was located. After a few turns, Yi Qinghan appeared outside the Blood Gully and found that the Kuang sect had already arranged an army at the entrance. With the Black Skeleton and the Blood Gully as a natural barrier, the location of the Kuang sect was the best. Seeing Yi Qinghan return safely, everyone was beaming with joy and were especially excited. Everyone was resting outside the entrance of the Wangu Yuntian. The divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan and grinned. As expected, good people don't live long, bad people cause disasters for 1,000 years. I knew you wouldn't die. Yi Qinghan smiled at everyone and held Emperor Ye's lily-white hand. He inquired about Emperor Ye's condition and was relieved when he found out that everything was fine. Divine bird, where did the person who chased you die? Take me to see. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine bird and asked curiously. He did not know how it killed a saint master. The divine bird immediately felt cocky. In these years, it had killed many people, and they were all peerless experts. So what if it was a saint master? He was still tricked to death. This divine bird did not intend to kill that bitch, but he was courting death and chased me relentlessly. I sent him on his way and killed him in the lake where the 9 god lotus is located. The divine bird said arrogantly. He was dragged down by the water monkey? Yi Qinghan thought back to that water monkey. Now that he thought about it, he felt a chill run down his spine. That damned thing was simply too strong underwater. It was easy for it to kill a holy lord. If it wasn't for Yi Qinghan's extreme physical strength and his proficiency in water, he definitely wouldn't have been able to escape. God. The divine bird nodding. Calm. Yi Chu Yuntian. Yuntian directly pierced the Yuntian mountain Yuntian. Yez's 9 Q Yayins, his clothes fluttering of the 9 Yuntian s, was Ahi's 9 god. Yi ya Yezit. It was. It. Why are you here again? The 9 god Lotus asked coldly. She didn't like humans. The expert that the spirit-devouring divine parrot lured here last time was dragged into the water by the water monkey. I want to see his identity. Please have the water monkey give me his corpse and I'll leave immediately. Yi Qinghan looked at the demoness without any emotion as he spoke in a deep voice. The 9 god Lotus frowned and asked, "What if I refuse?" What? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed and his aura rose. The Desolation Lord's aura was overwhelming. It suppressed the 9 god Lotus and was extremely overbearing. If I want to kill you now, it will be as easy as lifting my hand. Considering that you have cultivated for so many years, I am willing to negotiate with you. Don't force me to take it myself. This time, I will not let you and the water monkey go. The 9 god Lotus was frightened by Yi Qinghan's aura. She felt that the entire world was under his control. She couldn't use the mysteries of the world. In front of Yi Qinghan, she was like a mortal. Weng. The 9 god Lotus's dress fluttered and splashed water. She summoned the water monkey. Give me that corpse. Yi Qinghan ordered. The water monkey bared its teeth at Yi Qinghan. It was extremely angry and wanted to drag him down again. Its expression was ferocious and terrifying. Yi Qinghan raised his hand slightly. The water rippled and the surrounding space was imprisoned. The water monkey couldn't retreat into the water even if it wanted to. The 9 god Lotus couldn't use her divine power and could only allow the water monkey to be imprisoned in the air. The water monkey struggled for a while and immediately lost its strength. Human, I promise you. Don't kill it. The 9 god Lotus cried out. She didn't expect Yi Qinghan's strength to become so terrifying. Yi Qinghan snorted and threw the water monkey into the water. The water monkey drilled into the water in fear and threw out a shriveled corpse. It then fled and didn't dare to show its head again. The corpse's mask hadn't been taken off, but its clothes had shriveled. The round and powerful body was now a withered skeleton. The essence of its flesh and blood had been devoured by the water monkey. All that was left was skin and bones. Yi Qinghan gently took off his mask and looked at the terrifying face. It was impossible to recognize his original appearance. Origin pure. Flesh and blood return. Hua. Wu Ye's face was enveloped by the power of desolates. Large amounts of vitality flowed and a treasure light flowed, quickly restoring his original appearance. Yi Qinghan's divine power was quickly depleted. His soul was exhausted and in that instant, he couldn't hold on any longer. He took a few steps back and looked at the face. His lips curled into a sneer. It's really you. Second King Yanluo, you shouldn't have made me your enemy. Yi Qinghan was cold and ruthless. He clenched his fists and with a hoarse voice, he kicked the corpse into the lake. A divine lord of a generation had died so miserably. Furthermore, he was killed by a divine bird. He probably died with grievances. No wonder his expression was so terrifying. Yi Qinghan looked at the peerless 9 heavens divine lotus and didn't want to make things difficult for her. He turned and left. Watching Yi Qinghan leave the valley, the 9 heavens divine lotus didn't even have the strength to maintain her human form. She turned back to her original form and was a little listless. When they returned to the exit of the crazy sect, the divine bird pounced on them and asked excitedly, "Did you find out? Which divine lord was the one I killed? Haha, this is the glory of this divine bird's life. It'll be my bragging rights in the future." Yi Qinghan looked at the divine bird's smug look and sneered. He said, "Indeed, it'll be enough for you to brag for a few hundred years. He's the leader of the sorcerer tribe. We. Fuck, I killed we? Pa. The divine bird flapped its wings and trembled. Now that it thought about it, it was still scared. However, he was already killed. It immediately laughed arrogantly as if it had done something amazing. Yi Qinghan laughed evilly and summoned the little golden crow into his body. He let it absorb the barren divine power in his body, hoping that it could evolve again. The little money grubber was listless. It stretched out its legs and lay on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. It said lazily, "Take care of this big liar. He got the divine lotus essence, but I didn't get a share. I'm so angry. I don't care about the matters between you two." Yi Qinghan replied unhappily. Emperor Yi knew that it was the sorcerer tribe that stopped Yi Qinghan and Mo Li. He asked, "Master, what do we do next?" Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and said softly, "You guys continue to cultivate. I'm going to conquer the various sacred lands and find that person from the No-Way realm. Then, I'll settle the score with the sorcerer tribe." Chapter 1192. Yi Qinghan handed the black dragon horn to Emperor Yi and brought Jiang Jingtian, Zixian, and Nangong Yunlan away, heading straight for the demonic god mountain. On the way, Yi Qinghan told Zixian frankly, "Miss Zixian, if the Z family is unwilling to submit, I will kill the purple sage and suppress all the elders of the Z family. I hope you can understand." Zixian sighed helplessly. She really didn't want to participate in the struggle for power in the Z family, and she didn't want to step on her brother's corpse to climb up. "I have no other choice. The rulers of the various sacred grounds must be people I can trust. Once the people from the formless realm infiltrate the sacred grounds, they will return to the great wasteland domain through the Wangu Yuntian under the protection of the sacred grounds, and then return to the formless realm from the great wasteland domain. Our entire primal chaos realm will be destroyed at any time," Yi Qinghan said. "All right, I will try my best to convince them," Zixian smiled bitterly. Along the way, Yi Qinghan briefly explained the grudges between the seven realms and the great wasteland domain. However, he didn't say that he was the reincarnation of the great wasteland domain lord. It wasn't that he didn't trust him, but that he didn't want more people to know his identity. Now, if more people knew his identity, it would be more dangerous. For the time being, only Mo Li and Long Shirshir knew Yi Qinghan's true identity. Yi Qinghan arrived at the entrance of the demonic god mountain and discussed with Mo Li. They decided to suppress the sacred grounds from now on and control the sacred lord and saint child. With regards to Yi Qinghan and Mo Li's peaceful discussion, the people of the demonic god mountain felt that it was strange. Could it be that the battle had made the two of them trust each other? Yi Qinghan coldly looked at Yi Qinghan. Where was the brotherhood? There was only life and death, victory and defeat. Seeing that Yi Qinghan and Mo Li were no longer opposing each other, Qin Wenyan inexplicably heaved a sigh of relief. Otherwise, he really wouldn't know who to help. Mo Li spread out his star map and placed 20 stones on the ground, each representing a holy land. After all, Emperor Yi was a chaos dragon, and the chaos dragon bloodline no longer existed. She was the only one left, so she could no longer be considered a holy land. Mo Li looked at Ji Tian and Qing Emperor Shenyuan. He didn't want them to feel pressured, so he explained in a low voice, "Let's clear them out one by one. First, we'll eliminate Shenyuan holy ground and Karma holy ground. Our goal isn't to kill them, but to suppress their holy lords and their 3 grand elders. As long as we can suppress the peak holy lords, clan elders, and holy sons, we'll be able to eliminate one holy ground. Therefore, there won't be too much resistance." Yi Qinghan also nodded. Chapter 1193. In the Karma sacred ground, Sacred Lord Ji Tian and the 3 clan elders were sitting in the sacred hall. Their eyes were lifeless as they looked at Ji Tian Lingkong, and young Master Wen. They clenched their fists, and flames of anger burned in their eyes. After struggling for a long time, they loosened their fists. "Is what Yi Qinghan said true?" Holy Lord Ji Tian stared at Ji Tian's demon spirit and asked in a stern voice. "Most likely. He doesn't just want to deal with the sacred ground. He also wants to control the Zixian sacred ground." Ji Tian explained helplessly. "What about the old ancestor? Is he really not dead?" Sacred Lord Jitian's tone softened as he asked in a muffled voice. Jitian looked at young Master Wen, not knowing how to explain. He hoped that young Master Wen could say a few words for him. Lord, Sacred Lord, I don't know if the old ancestor is dead or not, but young Master Wen definitely doesn't have the heart to betray the sacred ground. This time, we have no choice. If we don't agree, Yi Qinghan will destroy the sacred ground and arrange for someone he trusts to take control. His strength far surpasses Sacred Lord's, and we can't resist. Since death is unavoidable, why not compromise? It won't be too late to make a decision after seeing the truth. Sacred Lord Jitian was helpless. He couldn't change the situation, so he could only order everyone to leave. Before Jitian left, he seemed to remember Yi Qinghan's special care and hurriedly said, Old ancestor, Yi Qinghan said that our sacred ground shouldn't do anything or say anything for the time being. Let's wait for that expert from the non-Wei realm to come and tempt us. Sacred Lord Jitian nodded. At this time, he was looking forward to the appearance of that expert from the non-Wei realm. Only then could he be sure that Yi Qinghan wasn't lying. For the sake of the entire primal chaos realm, controlling the various sacred grounds was still fine. But if Yi Qinghan did it for his own selfish desires, he would definitely repay them with his life. Yi Qinghan used the Karma Sacred Grounds domain entrance to directly connect to the Xianyuan Holy Lands. He used the same method to attack Holy Lord Xianyuan and the 10 Great Elders of the Xianyuan Holy Lands, taking control of the Xianyuan Holy Lands in the shortest amount of time. After giving some simple instructions, he left the Xianyuan Holy Lands. Yi Qinghan quickly made up his mind. He didn't want to ruin his plans because of his personal feelings. Our next stop is the Z clan. Let's be the villain first and then the gentleman. Let's suppress the head of the Z clan and the various elders first. Zixin had to accept this reality. However, she also knew that once Yi Qinghan took action, her relationship with the Z family would completely fall apart. There would be no chance for her to reconcile with the Z family. Even if she could reconcile with them on the surface, her heart would never be reconciled again. A group of people quickly appeared in the territory of the Z clan. The Z clan was extremely hostile towards Yi Qinghan's arrival. Zixin led the Z clan's divine guards to stop him outside the Z clan's Saint City. The Z clan doesn't welcome Kuang Zong. Please leave. Zixin stood on the city wall and said coldly. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't expect the Z clan to not give him any face and directly reject him outside the city gate. Supreme Holy Land's Nangong Yunlan wishes to meet the head of the Z clan on behalf of our clan's Holy Lord. We have something important to discuss. Taoist Zixing, please pass the message on our behalf. Nangong Yunlan cupped her fists and said, Xianyuan Holy Land's Green Emperor Xianyuan wishes to meet the head of the Z clan on behalf of the Xianyuan clan. We also have something important to discuss. Taoist Zixing, please let bygones be bygones. Green Emperor Xianyuan also went up and persuaded. Zixing coldly looked at the people below the city and fixed his gaze on Zixin. Didn't you draw a clear line between you and the Z clan? Why did you come back? If you have something to say it here. I'll take full responsibility. Zixing didn't give any face and directly rejected the two saints' suggestions. Zixin's face turned ugly, and he didn't know what to say. Demon God Mountain's Emoli wishes to meet the head of the Z clan. I wonder if the Demon God Mountain has the face to let the descendant of the Z clan meet us? Emoli's muffled voice rolled across the boundless plains and echoed on the city walls. If the 4 Holy Lands and the crazy sect joined forces, they would have no problem destroying any of the Holy Lands. Zixing's face slightly changed. At this moment, the head of the Z clan arrived at the city gate with a few old men beside him. They were definitely top experts. I wonder why the saints have come in person? My Z clan no longer cares about the war in the outside world and will not participate in it. If it's related to the war, please leave. Z clan's Holy Lord said lightly. What if it's related to the survival of the Z clan and the other Holy Lands in the primal chaos plane? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. Sect Master Yi doesn't need to worry about the survival of my Z clan. We also don't care about the survival of the primal chaos plane. Z clan's Holy Lord said decisively. Yi Qinghan and the others looked at each other with impatience in their eyes. They didn't expect the Z clan to be so stubborn. Mo Li frowned and secretly asked, "Brother Yi, could it be that the people from the Wuxing realm have already entered the Z clan's holy land? Otherwise, why would the Z clan be so strong?" Yi Qinghan was silent for a while. He looked at Zixian and said in a low voice, "Miss Zixian, if the Z clan and the people from the Wuxing realm are really colluding, don't blame me for being ruthless." Zixian clenched her fists and stared at the cold and emotionless eyes on the city wall. She finally suppressed her kindness and nodded, "It's up to Brother Yi." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He muttered to himself, "Don't disappoint me. Once you escort the people from the Wuxing realm out of the primal chaos plane, don't blame me for being ruthless." Yi Qinghan looked at Mo Li and said, "Inform the demonic god mountain. Once the experts from the Z clan leave the Z clan's holy land and advance through the depths of the Wangu Cloud dynasty, immediately surround and kill them. Emperor Xianyuan, inform the Xianyuan Holy Land. Brother Yunlan, tell the Holy Lords to prepare to enter the Wangu Cloud dynasty and wait for orders." Yi Qinghan quickly informed Emperor Yi and sent people to watch the entrance of the Wangu Cloud dynasty where the Z clan was. Soon, Yi Qinghan and the others left the Z clan's holy land. If they attacked now, it would definitely arouse the vigilance of the other holy lands. Therefore, they gave up on the Z clan and rushed towards the other holy lands. The other holy lands wouldn't be like the Z clan, rejecting people thousands of miles away. Moreover, Yi Qinghan had Mo Li, Emperor Xianyuan, and Nangong Yunlan by his side. On their side, there was only Jiang Jingtian alone. They didn't think that Yi Qinghan would bring this group of people to attack the other holy lands. Due to Mo Li's identity, this group of people was able to enter the Holy Land of Space-Time, the Holy Land of Order, and the Qinglong Holy Land without any obstructions. Yi Qinghan suppressed the various holy lords. His strength was strong, and with his sneak attacks, he basically killed the various holy lords in an instant. In just a day's time, Yi Qinghan controlled almost half of the holy lands. The more holy lands he controlled, the easier his plan would be. He would bring the holy lords of the various holy lands to visit the next holy land. Who would have thought that they were there to suppress the holy lands? Everything was done quietly. No one knew that Yi Qinghan controlled so many holy lands and suppressed so many holy lords. Even the sorcerer race didn't realize it. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.